Hey everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I'm really happy to have you all here today. It's so exciting. Happy Saturday. Hope you're all having an awesome day. So it's the first day today of May, which I'm super excited about. Feeling some spring fever for sure. Got my garden started up a little bit last week. I told you guys that right after the stream I was planning to go out and plant my garden, and so far it is holding up okay. We have had just a little bit of wind the past couple of days, so that is knocking out just a little bit of the garden. I'm hopeful that some of my stuff that I've planted is still going to be holding on there. So for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, I'm Victoria Moll. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator. And on my channel, I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. And I come on live just about every Saturday. Sometimes I have to skip if something's going on, or occasionally I will have to move the stream if something is going on. But I'm here every week to answer questions about the medical coding industry. I can also answer questions about myself or my business. I don't typically get those. Usually I get questions about the medical coding industry. So for those of you that are tuned in, come on in, feel free to say hi to your friends in the chat, and let's get started with the live stream. So hey everyone, I see that I have a new member today, so welcome to Jules M. Thanks for joining the channel membership. I saw you just recently joined. For those of you who are not familiar with the channel membership, I do have a membership group on the YouTube channel. So I don't have particularly a Patreon or any other additional, like a buy me a coffee I think they have these days. I have everything confined within my YouTube channel. So there's different tiers of membership that go from $1.99 a month to $9.99 a month. Everyone gets access to the community only post, to custom emojis. At the higher levels, the $4.99 and $9.99 a month, you get your name added to the different credits, the end credits that I have at the end of my videos. At Platinum, you actually get additional content, behind the scenes footage, and sometimes there's just like fun posts that I have just for the community of things going on behind the scenes and all sorts of stuff. So it's great to see you all here today. Hi to Momin. Hi, I was waiting for you. Oh, good. Well, here I am. Happy Saturday. And Shababa's joining in from LinkedIn. Great to have you guys here today. So this stream actually goes, it's primarily for, I don't want to say for my YouTube channel, but most of my audience is at YouTube. And I also live stream across Facebook and LinkedIn. The interesting thing about LinkedIn is actually you have to have basically special permission to go live on LinkedIn. It's not one of those things where it's like Facebook where you just click a button and they hook up to your camera. You actually have to have special software. You have to get permission from LinkedIn. You have to have additional security installed through your LinkedIn profile in order to stream live on LinkedIn. So we go, my hair is just a smidge off on this side. Do you guys see that? Do you guys see that? Where is it? It's hard to do on the camera. So my LinkedIn family is here, my Facebook family is here, my YouTube family is here. But when I talk about channel membership, I'm talking about the YouTube channel membership, and they get all kinds of cool custom emojis and stuff. But it's so awesome to just be here on all kinds of different platforms. So hello to Tammy, hello to Diana. It's great to have you all here this morning. I was scouring through some of the questions that I've had recently, and you know, I get every now and then questions from nurses about transitioning to a medical coding role, and I think that's great. You know, there's definitely more interest, I think, even since the pandemic, from nurses that are potentially interested in moving into a medical coding role, what that would look like. I actually put some things together not too long ago for nurse.org. I think that is still up on their website in their billing and coding section, where I just kind of talk to them the difference between billing versus coding, and the fact that, you know, a nursing position probably pays, at least to start out, a lot more than medical coding does. But, you know, with nursing, I think the barriers that I've heard a lot of nurses say, and that's, one of these days I'm going to have to grab one of my nurse friends that transitioned to medical coding and make them come on the live stream. But I from what I hear is one of the barriers that nurses hit a lot is that they, because of their vast clinical knowledge, oftentimes want to connect the dots. And, as coders, we can't assume, we can't make that clinical inference. And nurses, they want to, like, they can see a lab data or an X-ray or a study or something and know what that diagnosis is. And they want to code that diagnosis, but it's not in the documentation. So I know that's one of the common struggles that nurses face when they move into a medical coding role. And just learning all of those extensive guidelines that, maybe don't always make the most clinical sense to them. So let's talk. I have a question here from Stacy. Stacy says, hi, do you have any advice on the CPC exam? I'm doing it online and I'm very, very nervous. I have heard some really interesting, so let me show you this. So let's see if I have one here. I don't have a dry erase marker for some reason. All of them. I just moved my desk. So everything's a little bit discombobulated right now. But I've heard some test takers recently say for the online exam, how you're allowed to have the whiteboard, and not everyone knows like what to do with the whiteboard. Like people have said, you use it for process of elimination. One genius idea that I'm told people are allowed to do now is they get a dry erase marker and they just cross stuff out on their monitor. So they just cross it out on their monitor instead of using the whiteboard. And apparently the proctor said, as long as all of the markings are off at the end of the exam, that's fine. They're allowed to do that. So if you can kind of see me here, like you just get your dry erase marker and you could cross off and do your process of elimination that way. I actually have a couple of cool videos on the channel on CPC exam tips. So if you haven't checked those out yet, definitely do. I think I have a whole playlist just for CPC exam specific information. And that will be very helpful, especially with the online exam. I have some people that I interviewed that took the online exam and they provide some kind of tips too. But just really make sure that you're ready ahead of time. I know there's sometimes some anxiety because of having to get set up and work with the proctors ahead of time in the virtual kind of setting, and getting that all set up, and on top of the nervousness of just taking the exam. So just making sure that everything's set up, that your webcam is at an angle that they can see your whole desk. Which reminds me, speaking of desks, so the reason that I haven't been online as much the past couple of days is because I have been renovating in here just a little bit in my office. And I have an L desk, but I bought this new chair, and you can see it's kind of taller. It's a more ergonomic chair. And at its lowest setting, my monitor was still like way too low for it to be like I was hunched over kind of trying to check out my monitor. So I thought, well, I'll just cave and buy a new desk. I needed one anyway because I just needed a little bit more desk space. I got this monster new desk. You guys check this out. Isn't this cool? I could do the whole live stream standing now. And everything, I got the cords all set up now so that everything like moves up and moves down. And it just takes a press of a button and I just go up and down. Isn't that? I'm like so impressed. I don't want it so much as a standing desk because I'm not all about the standing desk thing. But it's just great to have something that is now like so completely adjustable because of my being tall. It did not come cheap though, I'll tell you that much. But I'm working now on getting like my document camera and everything else set up, but just super, super fancy. Really excited about this. So yeah, so I'm still kind of trying to get some of my stuff put together. But you know the movie Step Brothers, where they try to convince their parents to get the bunk bed, and they're like, "Oh, we'll have so much more room for activities." Like that's how I feel now because my desk is so much bigger. I'm like, I have so much more room for activities in here. Oh gosh, gotta love it. So Yeah, I don't think this desk is moving anywhere either because it came in 3 different boxes. And when the first box came, I'm like, oh, here's my desk. And I took all of my stuff out of the office, not realizing I was going to have 3 huge freaking packages come. And it took a couple of days for the rest of them to get here. So I was kind of like working on my couch for a little bit. So I was offline just a little bit more so than usual because I just didn't have my office set up. More questions coming in. Kelly Abbott says, I'm glad I found your channel. I'm glad you found my channel too, Kelly. Stick around. Keep on coding on. How do you learn surgery? And are there any free resources you are aware of? I'm not aware of any free resources, except for maybe what's available on YouTube. You know what? There is a lady that has done a couple of how to dissect an op report, but she doesn't post anymore, Coding with Kate. So I would search on YouTube, how to dissect an operative report. I know there's Missy Keok does some things, some pretty extensive with her coding book stuff. And she might be a good one. So as far as learning surgery coding, though, there are, oh gosh, and I think the sale just ended yesterday that the AAPC did have some specialty modules that you could take, some stuff for like general surgery. So they do have some specialty, even practicodes that you could take that they have on the AAPC website. Let's see if I can find them here. So certification. Maybe it's, I'm not sure if it's under certification or education. Let's see here. Exam preparation, specialty medical coding training. So they do have some specialty training. It's not free, but depending on how, much you're willing to invest here, they do have some stuff on particularly like general surgery. I don't know how deep they get into how to dissect an operative report though, but that is something I have on my list of things to do. So eventually there'll be some more resources for that. But as far as resources, yeah, I know there are a couple of ones on YouTube that do have some like how to dissect an operative report ones. Hi, Todd Smith. Glad to have you here. Suzette, I'm not quite sure about your question. About what percent of the exam we get from the tests that we do from each module we get? I'm not quite sure. If you could clarify that a little bit. I'm not sure if you mean, like, are there certain modules that are going to be on the CPC exam or how many modules you have to do for the online exam? I'm not quite sure. Kenia says, I took the 2020 AAPC course, but with work and kids, that'll do it. I couldn't take the exam for a year now. I have my exam for 2021 scheduled in 2 weeks, and I'm nervous that I'm not prepared. So the best way to help you get prepared, or at least assess your level of preparedness for the CPC exam, is to do some practice exams. Now, I've heard a variety of concerns about practice exams. Some people will comment and say they think it is harder than the actual exam. Some people will say they found it about the same, but I think if you can get an 80% on a practice exam, that is like a big green light that you're ready to go for the CPC exam. And they have some on the AAPC website. So if you go into, let's see if I can find it here, CPC, there should be some packages here for certification program practice exams. Here we go, practice exams right there. So there are different packages of practice exams. There's no one package that's better than the other, or rather bundle, I guess they call them A, B, C, and D. They're all going to be different questions. There's no difference to say like, oh, well, bundle A is going to have more surgery or bundle B is going to have more of this. It's a mixed bag of nuts. So there's no telling, this package is better or this package is better. It's all just mixed together stuff. There's also review classes that you can take. So oftentimes AAPC local chapters will have review classes that you can take. Sometimes they host them. Occasionally you can find a real nice chapter that'll host them for free. Some of them, they'll have a moderate fee attached to them, maybe 20, 30, depending on how much they do, because some chapters are like, they've got this like a fine oiled machine and they charge a little bit more for it. So in that case, they sometimes charge a little bit more. I have a review class if you're interested on my website. I think it's $29.99 for the review class. It's 8 hours of video content and it includes a practice exam. So you can find that on my website. So contempocoding.com, and then courses and CPC review and practice exam, which reminds me, I'm in the transitional period right now with my license with the AAPC. So I just renewed and my new renewal date is March 1st. So all of the CEUs that I have for my courses had to get resubmitted. So it might be like a day or two till they get those. They'll be retroeffective till March 1st and then go until for 1 year. So they're active for that. But there's going to be this like tiny little couple of days of transition maybe where like the CEUs, depending on your completion date, may or may not work, but everything's going to be up and running hopefully in the next couple of days. So in that meantime, I actually took down my free CEU courses because a couple of people, well, most people finish those the same day, right? So I don't want people finishing them in the next day or two before that CEU approval gets through and getting 100 emails about why the CEU is not working. But they'll be back up just in a couple of days. So I have a question here from Leah. And that, is there any way to do medical coding but not full-time? Yeah, so there are part-time positions in medical coding. Why does my hair always look terrible from the back? There are part-time positions in medical coding. They're not as easier to come by, but yeah, they're definitely there. So what I like to say is I don't know if you're in medical coding already or if you're in school, but one of the ways that you can assess the availability of part-time jobs is by going to a great website, codersdirect.com. And this is a listing of all kinds of medical coding jobs. So they do have differentiations here. You can see these are all full-time. So if you go to browse all of them, you can kind of go through that column and determine which ones are full-time versus which ones are part-time. It is a little bit slow sometimes. So let's see here. Full-time. So a lot of full-time. Contract, full-time. And the other thing to consider with, depending on how part-time you want to be and the considerations of, are you just part-time now because you're raising kids and you're eventually going to go full-time, is you have to remember that there are costs associated with being a medical coder. So, I have some people that'll come in and say, hey, well, I want to learn medical coding as like a side gig, which medical coding is probably not the best thing to get into as a side gig type of work. Like if I were someone who just needed some extra money, I would maybe go into like virtual assisting or something, because medical coding, you have to pay, I can't remember if it's $180 or $190 a year for your membership. You have to get CEUs. You have to, learn a lot, participate in, all these updates now, like with E&M and all this stuff going on. And it's a lot to invest for just kind of some part-time or side gig type work. Now, if you're someone who's like, I just want to start part-time and go full-time eventually, or if you're just working part-time because your husband has a really good job and you just want to make some extra money and have, some part-time work for yourself, that's fine. But, definitely consider those investments that medical coding is, because not everyone wants to make a huge investment in a career that they're only looking to work maybe, 8 hours a week or something. So just some things to consider, things to weigh. Definitely not trying to discourage anyone out of anything ever. But, just want to make people aware. So yeah, so there are some part-time positions here like HCC coding, remote HCC coder, part-time outpatient HCC coder. So they do exist. There are definitely part-time positions out there, but you can see not quite as robust as the full-time positions that are there. So let's see. I know didn't I see you say something else here? I would eventually like to get my CRC, but I'm currently studying for my CPC. Do you recommend still taking a CRC course or just taking a practice exam before taking the certification? I think that it depends. Like if you're super, super good with ICD-10-CM coding, your guidelines really well, there's a couple of different options you can take. And what I do is I prepare for the CRC exam students, and I have like 3 different tiers that I have. So I have 3 different programs available. I have the top tier is my course, which is the most expensive one. So it goes, soup to nuts, business of healthcare, into ICD-10-CM basics, into, more full-blown ICD-10-CM, like the guidelines, the risk adjustment models, and then all the different quality measures and stuff. So that's the most expensive. The middle tier then is boot camp. Boot camp is the next one is, I believe, June 5th and 6th. And that's a little bit cheaper than the course, and it includes the study guide. And basically, I condense everything down. So if you're already like a CPC and you just want to get your CRC, that's like a perfect solution, because this is just going to skip all that healthcare business stuff and the introduction to ICD-10, which you already know, and go more so into what is risk adjustment, what are the models, what are the commonly used procedures, what are the documentation pitfalls, and focus on that live over 2 part-time days. And then I have a review class. So that's maybe you are just like, I got the study guide. I kind of know what I'm doing, but I just want something to hear this and just do some practice. So I have one that's just a CRC review class. It's like 3 hours long, condensed, and then has a practice exam attached to it. So depending on how much you need, like I have packages for just about anyone. And I also have a coupon code for the boot camp right now that's up on the website. And then there's also one for the course. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. YTCRC sale. So yeah, YTCRC sale is a 20% off coupon then for my CRC course. And they're all on the website. Hey, Marissa. Hey, Marissa's in the house. Glad to have you here, Marissa. Marissa, I'm always so impressed by like the cool projects you get to do. I have Rizwan here. Rizwan is saying, hey, Victoria, I'm in the medical field. Recently had a severe battle with COVID. I'm really sorry to hear that, but I'm hoping you're doing better. I'm glad you're doing better. Thankfully recovered. Since recovering from COVID, I realized I like to have business. So like a medical coding business. So yeah, that's thinking about getting a franchise. Yeah, franchise. I don't know of any medical coding franchises, to be honest with you. I know there are, so you can license to be an AAPC approved instructor, but you have to have like 5 years of experience as a medical coder in order to license with them. Now you can, kind of host your own medical coding school or billing school online, if you want to build your whole curriculum. But yeah, definitely. I don't know why we're saying we're in the end game now. So hello, we're in the end game now. That's kind of interesting. I'm hoping the trolls aren't coming in right now. Holy crow. I haven't been paying as close attention to the chat. One of these days I need to get I probably shouldn't say live that I don't have moderators other than myself, but I haven't really needed to so far. Duressa is saying, do you have any tutorials on YouTube for the CPT medicine section? Not yet. I do have, the closest I have is I have something right now on vaccine administrations. That's about the closest right now to the medicine section I have. So I did start a series, and I'm hoping to get the next part up probably for my Thursday upload, where I'm going to start going like chapter by chapter in CPT and kind of going high level, like quick anatomical review, like what's in this chapter in CPT, what are the pertinent ICD-10-CM codes, and then talk let's look at like 5 concepts and do some questions surrounding like the top 5 concepts that are either like hard or people don't get right, or I think are just, something that's really pertinent to understand. And I started with integumentary. Next is musculoskeletal. And this is going to sound so funny, but I haven't recorded the musculoskeletal portion yet, partly because I bought this really funny musculoskeletal kind of related t-shirt, and I want to wear it for the video. So I haven't recorded it yet because I'm waiting for this t-shirt to get here. And I think it's going to be coming hopefully in the next day or two. I think it just shipped from Florida like today or yesterday. Mary Ellen, I'm your chapter president. Well, hello from the Allentown chapter. Yeah, it's been a tough year to be a chapter officer. This year and last year have been a tough year to be a chapter officer because just of having to figure out all the stuff with testing and everything. And I'm still struggling even myself, trying to get trying to get people involved in proctoring and finding locations. Locations have been really tough since we used to just use the hospital and they'd give us a room, and now we don't have hospital rooms. Rima says, I'm from India currently. Our May exams postponed due to COVID. So when can we expect it? I honestly have no insight on that. I'm not part of the AAPC. I serve as a volunteer on the chapter association, but that's not part of the actual AAPC. That's a totally separate organization. That's just kind of basically like the next level up from being a chapter officer, basically. So I don't have any insight onto when or even what's going on. You would have to contact AAPC directly with that. Rahul's asking how to apply for medical coder jobs in USA from India. Is there any consultancy? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of experience because of just being US based myself. I've not had experience having to be in another country and apply in the United States. So it's not something that I have personal experience in to weigh in on. I know there are organizations that do. You can definitely check on, like I said, codersdirect.com, where they have all those job listings. You can find them there. I don't think there's anything that breaks it down as far as if they do accept candidates from other countries, but you can check here the remote button and see if you can find some positions that are available that way. Emma is asking, hey, Victoria, I'm currently a medical coder interested in taking a risk adjustment course. How long does it take to complete? So that's a great question. And just kind of going back to that. So I mentioned that I have, the 3 different programs. This is the risk adjustment course. This is the boot camp. And then this is the practice exam and review course. So the risk adjustment coding course, typically a good way to tell how kind of long a course might be is by how many CEUs are offered. So what the AAPC does is they structure it so that you get like 1 CEU for every hour of education. So since this has about 12 hours of video instruction, it also gives you 12 CEUs if you have an AAPC certification. So it's 12 hours of video content, so 12 hours of just the video instruction, but then you also have to factor in how much time you want to do the practice cases, the practice exams, read the study guide, and any other additional information that you're going to kind of use to study or review or what have you. There's also, I think, a final exam included, some case studies. So that it's going to be at least 12 hours of video instruction. Now, if you're someone who's like, I already know the business of healthcare and about insurance and ICD-10-CM, you could probably skip those chapters and go a little bit further. So, I would say I've had people that have finished it in like 2 weeks. Jada is asking, and this is a good question. Let me get over. Hey, thanks to Marcy, who has become a channel member. Congratulations. Welcome to channel membership. Excited to have you. Thank you so much. Jada is asking, do you have to have a bachelor's degree? So no, and I'm not going to move my camera again and show you guys the diploma that I have, because last time that froze my camera and that was not a good situation. But no, the great thing about medical coding is you can get a bachelor's degree. Yeah, I would certainly never discourage anyone who wants to go out and further their education and get a bachelor's degree. Like, that's great. You don't need one, though, for medical coding. Let me just get a sip of coffee real quick here. So really, for medical coding, technically, you can just pass your CPC exam, and that will qualify you because it shows that you have proficiency in medical coding. AHIMA has a program that you don't need to have like prerequisites for. They're CCA, Certified Coding Associate. Any AAPC exams, they really don't have prerequisites for. There's certainly strong recommendations because you might not do so well on the exam if you haven't taken medical terminology and anatomy and medical coding and so forth. But there's a lot of employers that are just fine as long as you have your certification, you've passed the exam, that's good to go. I think it's also good to have some kind of diploma or certificate. You can get those through a business school. I have an affiliation with OnlineDegree.com. So what OnlineDegree.com does, I guess now hashtag sponsored, but Online Degree basically takes, they ask you the same questions I would ask you, like how soon do you want to finish? What kind of program do you want to get into? Where are you located? And then they match you up with an accredited school. So they only work with accredited schools like universities and colleges and so forth. And they'll pair you up with someone to go and get a certificate in medical billing and coding. And so you can do that. And if you want, there should be in the video description a link to, at least on YouTube, to my discount that I have with OnlineDegree.com. So check and leave that. You can also check with your community college. You can check with your business schools. If I was going back, like if I was back in time and I was starting all over again, like today, I would probably go and get my associate's degree. At the time I started, there wasn't like an associate's degree program for medical billing and coding. It was like you get into a medical secretary degree. That was like the closest. But I think it would be good to have an associate's degree just to have something to like fall back on, because then at least you have some kind of degree, even if maybe you down the line go, you know what, I don't really want to do this anymore. I don't want my certification. Maybe you decide you want to get into like more of the IT side or charge master and you don't really need the medical coding certification. You still at least have a degree to fall back on. And maybe if you want to go for another degree at some point, you still have all those classes that might transfer over. So not necessary, but I am seeing more employers, not all of them, but there is, I've noticed an increase in employers that want associates and more so bachelor's degrees for management and director type roles. So Wendy's asking, how do you know when you have to add a modifier? That's a good question. So really it's if something different went on with that procedure, if there's something that you need to signal to the insurance company that has changed. So commonly things like maybe something's unbundled and you need to put a 59 modifier on it, or you have an E&M and procedure same day. Or if, there's something that was just, it met the CPT definition, but you need to tell them a little bit more of the story. Maybe it was reduced, maybe it was increased. So one of the things that you can do is just start reading through some of the modifier descriptions in CPT. So if you go through the front flap of your CPT book, that's where they kind of give you that basic definition of a modifier. But then there's also Appendix A in the back. By the way, guys, if you could let me know in the chat, how's my audio doing today? And is my audio and video syncing up? Because it's funny, as I unhooked and rehooked all of my cords, it seems like things are working just a little bit better now. So we also have Appendix A, and that's your full-blown description of modifiers. So make sure that you're familiar with the definitions of the modifiers. And then as you start seeing more cases where a modifier is needed, it's going to trigger it in your brain like, oh yeah, this was just the report of the X-ray. So I need to put that 26 on for the professional component. So it's one of those things that, anything with medical coding, practice kind of just makes perfect. Excuse me. Krishna's asking, do international high school diploma is accepted to take CPC exam? Honestly, I'm not quite sure if they have different requirements internationally. I know with just the US-based AAPC, like there's really no requirements, to be honest with you. If you look at, and again, I don't know if it's different for AAPC Global, but as far as the US-based, let me see if it has on here the prerequisites. Woohoo! Thank you, Tempest Dawson, for subscribing to the channel. So certification requirements, and Hassan Ali, thank you for subscribing. So certification requirements on the AAPC website. Boom, right here. And again, I don't know if maybe that for whatever reason globally there's a difference, but this is my understanding, at least in the US. We recommend having an associate's degree. You have to pay your examination fee. You have to have a membership. So there's really no education requirements to sit for the CPC exam. AHIMA is more strict. There are certain exams types that they have that you have to have a certain degree. It has to be accredited. You have to prove certain types of education. But technically on here, if you look, it doesn't even say you have to have a high school diploma. Does the AAPC update the exams to keep up with the change made to guidelines? Example, changes made to the E&M this year? Yes. So the AAPC exams change by calendar year, and this is different than the AHIMA exams. So January 1 of every year is when all of the new guidelines go into effect with AAPC on their exams. So even though ICD-10-CM actually changes a couple months prior to that on October 1st, all those new guidelines, they get them ahead of time, they review them, and everything goes into effect on January 1. So all of those 2021 updates for E&M have been in effect in the exams since January 1st of 2021. AHIMA does it a little bit different. I think they allow you to test for a couple of months afterwards into the year, and then they change it into the next year's guidelines. But yeah, so the interesting thing, and I heard someone say this on a podcast yesterday, and it would stand to reason, but I don't think it's the way they went through it. And this is the way I kind of thought they were going to do it too, is, previously with E&M coding on the CPC exam, what they used to do is for all levels, since it was based all levels prior to 2021 were based on history, exam, medical decision making, they would give you the level of history, give you the level of exam, give you the level of medical decision making. Well, now it's just medical decision making, but I don't think that they are, I think they're actually making you score out for office and outpatient now, at least based off of a couple of things. One, what I've seen in their CPC study guide for 2021 leads me to believe that they are making you score out office and E&Ms, that they're not going to give you the level of risk and the level of data, etc. Second is I have access as an instructor to like a test bank for practice for the students that are taking the test. And the test questions are structured that way. They are structured that they just give you the note and have you pick the level of service. They don't give you the level of risk, level of data, etc. Wendy's asking, where did you get your desk? Autonomous is where I got it. It was Autonomous AI, and they have some, mine's like the giant L desk, but they also have some smaller stand-up ones, and it's like cool because it's like so smooth. Let's do this again. Ooh. And it's programmed too. Like I have this button that I just press and it goes to my standing height, but I can also manually move it up and down from there, which is just like so cool. Actually, let's stay here for a minute. I heard there's a different energy when you are presenting and you're standing up. So let's see if there's a different energy for this last couple of minutes. I don't like to stand too much. So just interesting fact about me particularly, I have terrible venous insufficiency in both of my legs. So when I stand still for too long, all of my blood drains into my feet and then doesn't come back up to my brain. So I start feeling like all fidgety and lightheaded, and I'm not a good person to stand for prolonged periods of time, but it is cool to like have the option now. And I really like that I can kind of adjust up and down. So I guess maybe if I am like starting to feel, tingling in my toes or something and my feet are falling asleep, I can kind of stand up, which is super cool. I'll have to see if I can get a link in my affiliate stuff. I think they do have an affiliate program. I might be able to like work something out where I get a couple dollars whenever someone orders a desk through me. Let's see. Cass A is saying, see, now I'm getting fidgety. Cass A is saying, so happy to join your live. I'm CPC certified and looking for an entry-level position since I have no experience in coding. What job title should I look for to gain experience? So I actually did a whole video on this, and you can find it on the channel. It's called Alternative Jobs for Medical Coders. But basically anything where you can get into the healthcare industry, because once you're in, now I'm just going to get zany. Once you're in, you're in. You're in, you're in, you're in. Once you're in, they oftentimes, just from human resource standpoint, especially in larger organizations, have to prefer an internal candidate versus an external candidate because they've already got you on the payroll. They like to just promote that culture of we promote from within and so forth. So that's great. I saw another comment about my desk. So the other interesting thing about this desk is I have one of those under the desk bikes, and I haven't been able to use it in so long because my knees would just knock up against my desk. And now that I've adjusted up, I can actually get my little desk cycle going too. So where is that video I was talking about? Boom channel. Let's see here. It's called Alternative Jobs for Medical Coders. Let's see if I can find it. No, where is it? I don't think it was that far back. How to find a job. What you should get using, oh, here it is, job options for medical coders. So this is the video you definitely want to check out because this is the one where I talk about how you can go and work at the front desk. You can, oh gosh, I look like a blow-up doll there. So scheduling is a great way to start out. Charge entry. Pre-authorizations is another great one. If you can get into the billing office, sometimes you can get a billing position easier than you can get an actual coding position, but anything you can do. Medical records, yeah. So that's a good way to get in, and that will help you. That will help you get some some experience. And then once they've already got you in, they've got you, familiar with the systems, the EMRs, the everything that's going on, then they're like, yeah, she's a great person. Let's hire her. I hired this great coder once. I should check up on what he's doing. Eric, he was so great, but he came highly recommended to me because he was doing something in the emergency department. I think he was like a registrar or something. And one of the physicians there was like, you got to hire this guy. He's just got such a great work ethic. He's so amazing. And I brought him in for an interview. And I don't want to say I had made up my mind already, but he was very highly favored because he just came so highly recommended from his work ethic, working in the emergency department, that this physician's like, I had to say he was kind of leaning on us, but he was like, yeah, you really, really, really got to hire this guy. He's great. I don't work in management anymore. And this is a funny story as to part of the reason why. So I brought this guy in for an interview, and he was super nervous. He was super, super nervous, and I felt bad for him. And it was my first time, I think it was my first time on my own interviewing someone, because my boss wasn't able to make it to the meeting. She was the director, I was the supervisor. Couldn't make it to the meeting that day to interview as well. So it was just me and him, and I was asking him questions about, what does he do and so forth. And then I'm like, yeah, it was a couple of years ago. It was right before Batman and Superman came out that summer. And I was like, yeah, I have one more question for you, sir. I said, this is very important. Batman versus Superman's coming out this summer. Who do you think is going to win? And he looked at me and he's like, Batman 100% of the way. I'm like, good, that's the right answer. I'm going to hire you now. So turns out he was actually a huge, huge Batman fanatic. So we would have this little chat going back and forth about Batman during work and stuff. And he had a Batman tattoo done one day at a comic book convention. So it wound up turning out to be kind of an oddly right on target question, because he was a huge freaking Batman fanatic. I also like Batman. My favorite Batman movie is probably Batman Begins. Da, 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 da. Is there any way to do a specialized CRC, like a specialized CPC, such as gynecology? So not really. I said CRC itself is kind of already, I don't want to say specialized, but when so when you're doing risk adjustment, you're looking at, in some cases, like an entire patient's year of records, and that's going to include every specialty. So there's not like a specialty specific for CRC. It would almost be for like risk adjustment, because it would almost be like a niche within a niche. And I think it's too far down of a niche, because we're talking just ICD-10-CM codes in risk adjustment for just a specialty. I don't think there's really specific specialty needs, I would say, in risk adjustment. So I don't think that's something that there's really certifications for, but there's a lot of specialized certifications for the AAPC for ICD-10-CM, HCPCS, CPT. So you can get certified in a ton of different specialties there, but it's going to cover more than just ICD-10-CM. So there isn't like someone's asking, can you get straight into risk adjustment, or do you need to already have a cert? So with the AAPC, there's no like order you have to go in. There's no like base credential. So you don't have to get a CPC before you get your CRC, your COC, your CPB, your specialty certification. I've known coders that have just had specialty certifications, that they were just a certified internal medicine coder or just a certified OBGYN coder without having their CPC at all. So yeah, you can get straight into risk adjustment. And that's something that I'm getting many more questions about, because a lot of students are saying, hey, I'm struggling with CPT. I really don't like CPT. Can I just get into risk adjustment? Absolutely, you can. Now, if you can do both, that's going to widen your net. Like if you can do CPT and ICD-10-CM and HCPCS, it's going to, give you a wider net. Actually, if you can do PCS, like you can do just about anything under the sun at that point, right? So, it's just that when you specialize in just risk adjustment, that's going to limit the amount of jobs you can apply for, because you can only apply for risk adjustment jobs. If you have your CPC, a lot of risk adjustment jobs will also take a CPC, but you can't, like say, if you just have your CRC and risk adjustment, you can't also go and code surgery, because the CRC is focusing on ICD-10-CM. They don't teach you CPT. So if you're going to look for like a general surgery coding position, they probably wouldn't hire you with just a CRC, unless you could test really well on like a pre-employment exam or something. Like if you could prove that you actually had CPT experience. Lima's asking, I'm an RN in my country, but wanted to go into the medical coding route. Does working towards being a USRN have any benefits to my being a medical coder? Possibly. There might be some employers that are interested in that because of your clinical expertise. They might want to see you in more of a role where you can do like documentation improvement or feedback to providers. But so there's going to be some benefits in that. But as far as, is it going to make you more marketable, as far as it going to make you an easier time to find a position, that's, that could be, it really just depends on what the job market is and what those particular positions that you would apply for are looking for. Marissa says she loves her standing desk too. It's a total game changer. I know. Look at how much I'm fidgeting though. Dun, 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 dun. Kelly says that she started in medical record scanning documents and now she's been in coding for 10 years. That's fantastic. Wendy, I got to ask you, like, do you still feel passionate about medical coding? Like after 10 years in medical records documentation, do you still feel like I love medical coding and this is great? Do you still feel very humble because you spent like all that time in medical records scanning and you're like, I made it. Now I've been in medical coding. Let me know in the chat. I'm curious. Yeah, Wendy's saying that she wants to transition from standing to sitting and helps with back blood flow and prevent some back pain. I think that's why I part of the reason why I've overhauled my whole desk is because of don't want to say necessarily I was having a ton of back pain, but this is just like, I feel like I'm moving a little bit more now. Wendy is also asking, have you used Codify? If so, what do you think about it? I love my Codify. Let me see if I can bring it up for you guys. Because I try not to do too much of actually logging into my AAPC account, only because I don't know. I don't know what I'm afraid that people are going to find in there other than my member ID number, which they really can't do much with. But let me see if I can get into my Codify. So I can kind of show you a little bit of what it is. I like it. I have some add-ons to my Codify. I think I have like the mid-range bundle, and then I have like an HCC calculator added onto it, which I like for my education stuff that I do. Actually, this just got renewed too. So this is my Codify account, live Q&A Codify 101. No, thank you. So yeah, one of the things I use a lot with Codify is the CCI edit bundling down here. So if you're coding for multiple codes, my number lock is stuck, 14302, 14301, 13121, 1402. So let's say I'm doing a big laceration repair or flap or something, and I hit CCI check. It'll tell me if there's CCI conflicts here, which is one of my favorite features of Codify. And then also RVUs, so you know what order to put them in, because this is the one that has the highest RVUs. So you know this is the first code, second code. I love that it also has like the lay descriptions. So if I look here, it'll tell me that this is an adjacent transfer or tissue rearrangement. It'll give me the defect size, and then where is it? Lay term. And then there's all the lay descriptions in there too, which I love. I think that's one of my favorite features too. Also, they have, if you saw that on the main page, let's see if this will go back here, is they give you all the code change information. So when it comes time for there to be new ICD-10-CM codes and CPT codes and all that, I can go on here and they'll have all the information that I need. Here we go, code changes. And then you can add on all those expensive additional things like CPT Assist or Coding Clinic if you need that. So I think it's fantastic. Like I said, I add on a little like HCC calculator tool too. So yeah, it's super fantastic. And there's books you can get too that'll give you like lay descriptions and information like this, but to have it all like on your screen, it's really nice. Aisha says, I'm taking CPC training class to take the exam. What is your advice? Can I find work from home when I am certified? There's a much better chance that you will find work from home when you're certified. If you're not certified, the chances that you're going to find a work from home coding position are very, very low. But, you know, once you're certified, your chances are going to be higher. Is it guaranteed that you're going to find a job? No, but the certification is what is going to position you a lot better to get some of those remote medical coding jobs. How much does Codify cost monthly? They have different tiers, I think. So it is not the most cheap. Let's see what I got here. Because I get it actually as part of my instructor license. They like throw it in there for me. Let's see here. Pricing. Okay, basic code. So they have 3 levels: basic coder, profi coder, and then there's one above that. So it looks like the basic coder is $274 a year. They do have a monthly option, $29 a month. And then they have one above that. So this just kind of, I think the basic one just includes like code lookup. I don't think it includes the, oh no, it does include CCI edit checker. It might not include the latest subscriptions. You'll have to kind of scroll through them. But the basics, and then they have Profi and Complete. And I believe what I have is the Profi Coder one. And that's a little bit more pricey. So that's $469 a year or $40 a month. Tara is saying, any tips for transitioning from RN to CPC? I'm on the last chapter in the CPC class through the AAPC. We'll be using Practicode after certification exam as it comes with the course. Awesome. So yeah, definitely make sure that you can even start with your Practicode if you have like time, like maybe you finish your course to, this week and your exam isn't for another couple of weeks, you can start on your Practicode already. But as far as tips with job search, make sure that your resume really highlights that you have some of that clinical expertise, especially your provider relationship stuff, right? Like you've probably worked with a lot of providers in the past, probably some heated conversations, and that will really elevate you in medical coding. There's always great places in medical coding for people who just want to sit at their desk and code charts all day. But if you're someone who's like, I don't mind working with providers, I don't mind having those difficult conversations with them when it comes to their documentation and improving it and making sure that they're getting reimbursed the full amount of what they deserve, but also keeping them compliant, like getting into things like auditing and compliance in medical coding, you can really make some good money there. So make sure that that's a lot on your resume. Also, definitely, again, codersdirect.com, you can go and search for jobs there if you're looking for something remote or near you. And I also have a video on the channel on finding, let's see if I can find it here. Where is it? I also have, oh, now my camera's all messed up because I'm standing. The side camera doesn't elevate. But there's also one on the channel about job search tools where I give out all of my best tips on how to find a medical coding job. That's a popular video. And I love the thumbnail on it. Like, I'm so proud of how I designed this thumbnail with like the badge with me on it. But yeah, how to find a medical coding job in 2021. That's the video you definitely want to check out. APC says you can't start Practicode till after you pass your certification. Really? Because someone told me that you could. Interesting. I'll have to find out because yeah, I originally thought that. And what the heck was that beat? Someone told me, oh, that was my aromatherapy thing. And someone told me, oh yeah, I've been doing Practicode as I'm going through the course. So Practicode didn't exist until after I got my A removed. So it wasn't something I was heavily involved in. But I actually did a video on Practicode the other week, if you haven't checked that out yet. And I kind of show you, like, I don't want to show you the notes that I'm actually coding in there because that would be not okay, I think. But kind of the layout and talk about it in general, like my thoughts on that. Yeah, see, it says on the website you can do Practicode before you get certified. Thank you, nice lady. Appreciate that. Oh yeah, can you guys let me weigh in on me? I don't know if I saw it while I was kind of distracted doing I don't know what, looking up stuff in the book. But how is my audio and video syncing today? Because I feel like unplugging and replugging everything and restarting my router has somehow helped the audio video sync. Like my lips weren't matching up. It looked like I was an old martial arts movie, the way that my lips were going the past couple of weeks. We have a question here. I live in Gulf country where it's challenging for freshers to get shortlisted for jobs without 1 year experience. Is it advisable to adjust the CV to get shortlisted for interview? I probably am not the expert on that particular issue. Check with Project Resume. So projectresume.net, they're amazing. Anna is so smart. I wish I was that smart. Rima's saying in AAPC exam preparation, after each class, we need to score 70% within 2 attempts, or else the user gets blocked and can't attend the rest of the sessions. Can't attend the rest of the sessions. That's crazy. I have heard, and I don't know where you're taking, if you're taking it directly through the AAPC or through somewhere else, but I have heard in the past that there are certain modules with the AAPC stuff that they do that you have to pass with a 70% in 2 attempts. And if it locks you out, you have to just call the AAPC and have them reset you. So I don't know if that's an option that you might want to be looking into if you're currently blocked out. But that's what I was told, that, they tell you 2 attempts, but you have to just basically call and get reset. Hey, Jamie King, good to have you here. I'm actually almost done. It's 3 o'clock right now, but I do have a couple of other questions that I saw in here that I want to take. This is a cute one. Do physicians ever get hurt feelings when you question them? I've gone through probably a spectrum of physicians. I've gone through physicians that think I am garbage and they don't want to waste their time with me. I've had physicians that are like so nervous. I've had ones that are just so friendly. So, I don't think most physicians get their feelings hurt when you question them. I think, depending on the question, there's sometimes coders that will ask questions that maybe the information was there and they didn't realize it was there, or they didn't realize that they could utilize it in a certain way. For example, like if a provider documents, patient had a skin graft and it was 10 by 5 centimeters. And they would get a question saying, hey, it has to be in square centimeters. Well, as a coder, you should be able to do the math and realize it's 50 square centimeters, right? So provider might get annoyed about that, like, hey, just do the math. Or there might be situations where, they get a little passionate. I've had that. Providers get passionate for you. But in the most case, they just want to work with you. They want to get it done. They're just like, hey, just tell me what it is I need to put into the documentation and I'll do it because I want to make sure that I get paid for it. So usually in the most cases, they're pretty good. Lime saying she loves the integumentary coding review video. I know. I was just saying earlier, you probably missed it in the stream, but musculoskeletal codings, I'm hopefully going to get out on Thursday. I still have to put together some of the questions. And then also I got this really funny t-shirt I found online that is like musculoskeletal related. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting to record that video until I can wear the funny coordinating t-shirt with it. Yeah, Jamie says she went through Project Resume and her resume is amazing. So if you are on, I think Facebook and YouTube have the link for Project Resume right on the bottom that you can use, and reference me because they keep track of that. They like to know that I'm sending them people. Okay, last question I'm taking here today. Kelly Abbott is saying, are most coding positions remote even pre-COVID? So pre-COVID, there was a good amount of remote positions. So medical coding has always been one of like the most popular remote positions that people are like, oh, when you want to work from home, like that's one of the first things that come up is medical coding. You can work from home doing medical coding. And now since COVID, a lot of the organizations that were reluctant to send their coders home are realizing that they can still do it. So there's been a shift that I think we've seen an increase in a lot more work from home coders. I think just in the past few weeks, we're starting to see, just generally speaking, people that were put remote because of the pandemic are starting to go back to the office now. But I think a lot of organizations are now realizing that they're okay sending their coders home, that it's okay. They have mechanisms in place now to monitor them as far as productivity and as far as quality. And I don't know if this is a standard thing or if this just happens to be all the organizations that I've worked with, but I swear every large healthcare organization I've worked with, just bumped a little, has space issues. So they're always running out of space. There's always, one person's getting shoved out of one department to work in another department, and one person in one QB is moving over, and they're running out of QBs. And what are we going to do? Some people are going to have to share cubicles, and now this is a solution for them, right? Like if we don't have people in the office, we don't have to have workspaces, or maybe we just set up a couple of shared workspaces. So I think there's a lot more a lot more work from home jobs that are now medical coding. Oh, this question that came in, I have to answer this. I know I said this was the last one, but I love this question. It's one of my favorite ones because it's a good one to answer. How can I mark my book so I know when there is a guideline? So there's guidelines on when you can and cannot, what you can and cannot mark in your book. And those are on the AAPC website. You go to Google and type in AAPC exam FAQ. So they'll tell you what you can and cannot mark in your book. But how do you know when there is a guideline? There is some cool stuff you can get through. CCO has a methodology of how to mark up your book. They have the BAT, B-H-A-T. So if you go to cco.us or just Google CCO BAT, B-H-A-T, there'll be some information on that. So they tell you how to like bubble and highlight and notate and stuff. And then there's CHUN, C-H-U-N. So that's another methodology people use to mark up their books. And I think there are some free videos on YouTube on how to do that. So CHUN is, I think, circle, highlight, underline, and notate, something like that. But you can find information about how to do those two methods online. So thank you guys so much for coming into the stream today. If you haven't already, make sure you give the video a big thumbs up. And I will see you guys here next Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, you guys, you just keep on coding on.